Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 1, I Was an Outcast Liege. Chapter 92, Anxiety. The sky was already dark when the rain stopped, with a few thin rays of fading light leaking out amongst the thick clouds. Black boots that came and went trampled on the water on the ground, sending them splashing, with the puddles reflecting the fractured dome of heaven. It was clearly the beginning of summer at this moment, but Chu capital still seemed to be soaking in the rainy season. It had already been days since the capital last saw clear skies. Having only gotten some free time now, Liege sat on the taishi chair and drank strong tea. He was old, and it was hard for his spirit to keep up. He was already feeling fatigued. But there were officials moving all around him attending to their duties, and the document exchanging hands also needed his perusal and approval. He was not at liberty to rest. Secretariat Elder, Kong Chiu took a temporary rest from the cases on his desk and said respectfully to Liege from where he was seated below the ladder, "The Ministry of Revenue must be held responsible for the incident with the military provisions this time. This subordinate has already submitted the request for the joint trial by the 3 judicial offices to His Majesty yesterday. This matter can't be delayed. What do you think if this subordinate gets started on the arrest tonight?" Liege was slow to answer as he stirred aside the tea foam. He looked at the window and only said after a long time had passed, "I've been sitting for so long it makes me tired. His Majesty is still having his meal at present. Come with me for a walk outside." Kong Chiu personally took Liege's overcoat from the junior eunuch and put it on for him. The two men walked out of the office. It was already dark outside. Kong Chiu carried a lantern and followed Liege along the small garden of the office compound. "You want to arrest Wei Huigo and there is nothing wrong with it?" Contrary to expectation, Liege felt a little more comfortable bathing in the night wind. He took a few more slow steps and said, "This incident concerns the stability of the frontier. You mustn't be too lenient with Wei Huigo. Just handle it in accordance with the law." Kong Chiu guessed that Liege still had something to say to him, so he lit the way for Liege. Already changing his form of address, he said, "I shall do as teacher says." This pupil thinks the same, too. He's so audacious this time that it won't work even if the Empress Dowager wants to shield him. This pupil can see that he's been increasingly acting out of line this year. Someone should have given him a warning a long time ago. Military affairs are not like other government affairs. This matter must never be tolerated and condoned. That the Prince of Liege put on his armor once again to head into the battlefield is an admonition to Chu capital. Liege stopped. He could no longer see the light between heaven and earth. He stood still in silence for a long while before he said, "Xiao Fangxiu is the alpha wolf. In the power struggle between Liege and the Hua clan all these years, he has never once stepped out of Liege due to ill health. He watches Xiao Jiming exhaust himself mentally and physically, and watches Xiao Qiye got trapped in the imperial city. He places both of his sons in dangerous circumstances. Why do you think he allowed that to happen?" Affected by Liege's tone, Kong Chiu subconsciously grew more heavy-hearted. He said, "Concession. The Prince of Liege is making concessions with his sons. The long-standing noble clans have established themselves into a fortress in Chu capital and he broke the rule from the frontier. Perhaps he once had the opportunity to advance, but he retreated. He retreated. Yet the Empress Dowager didn't understand." Feeling physically and mentally exhausted, Liege continued, "The Empress Dowager didn't understand, neither did Wei Huigo or the noble clans. Xiao Fangxiu broke the rule and he backed off not because of fear but because he was willing to accede to the sovereign-subject relationship between Great Zhou and Liege. But as they say, things will reverse in the opposite direction when they hit their limits. Chasing after the Xiao clan this urgently to beat them down is like urging Xiao Fangxiu to strike back. Since time immemorial, power struggles have always been unavoidable, but when it comes to wars, it's often an ominous sign that the situation is hopeless. The Zongbo troops suffered a defeat in the era of Emperor Xiand. Back then, the entire imperial court was full of corrupt officials who trampled upon the governmental affairs and made a mess of it. We have now regained the mess, and we are in trouble both internally and externally. Liege coughed in the wind and refused Kong Qiu's attempt to support him. It's only this year that the state treasury has the spare resources to bear the expenses for the local aid reliefs. Juexi did good and lived up to expectations by settling the military provisions issue for the two great armies. With Liege and Bianjun commandery stable, and with capable minister Zhang Qingshan about to be transferred to Zhongbo, there's hope for Zhongbo's revival. The Imperial Academy is on the rise, and scholars from humble backgrounds are gradually increasing. The Chief Surveillance Bureau has sent you to lead it, and of the up-and-coming talents, there's Yu Xiaoze. His Majesty also no longer indulges in frolicking around. Sorrow gradually washed over Liege. I initially thought that a new dawn was about to begin in Great Zhou, yet I now increasingly find myself in a situation where my spirit is willing but my flesh is weak. Alarmed, Kong Qiu forcibly held Liege to support him. His eyes reddened, and he said, "Why does teacher speak of such demoralizing words? The Prince of Liege is absolutely not that kind of person. This pupil will preside over the trial this time. I will definitely not let Liege suffer this injustice. There is still a chance to turn things around." However, Liege did not pull himself together. How far can this emaciated body still walk while holding up Great Zhou? He was just one man who could not save the situation on his own, much like one log alone could not prop up an entire building. He differed from the others, he could not act as recklessly and unscrupulously like the noble clans, nor could he turn completely to Liege. He was the Grand Secretary of the Grand Secretariat, and the one he supported was Liege Unhung. He had to make a decision that would maintain the balance in any given situation. Even if this decision might lead him to complete annihilation, he still must do it. Liege's fury has already been ignited. Xiao Fangxiu is now urging his troops onto Hanjian Eastern Mountain Range, but once the war subsides, he will no doubt turn back to settle this score with the Chu capital. Liege calmed down amidst the sound of coughing. When the time comes, no matter how he rages, we mustn't release Xiao Qi yet, even if Liege is willing to use the princess consort of Xiao Shizi, Lu Yizi, and his grandson Xiao Suan, in exchange for him. He placed both sons in dangerous situations with the intent to toughen them up all precisely for this day. Xiao Jiming is severely wounded, and this is just the time for him to lie low. Xiao Qiye made a name for himself in his youth, and Xiao Fangxiu put him in Chu capital to temper him for 6 years. Now that this blade is forged and his glory is known, letting him go back will be sowing the seeds of future disaster, much like releasing the tiger back into the mountain. I'm already at this age. Baran, I can't hold out for much longer. We have to treat Liege well, but we still can't let go of the rope we tether them with. I know that there will be many people lambasting me for being decrepit and muddle-headed after my death. But Baran, who dares to tell it to my face that Liege will really not rebel? That Kedong will really not rebel? Even if the Xiao Fangxiu of today can endure it, can a Xiao Qiye who takes over the commander-in-chief seat someday tolerate it? Great Zhou cannot afford to stake it all on this. I will take responsibility for deciding what should be given to Liege, not a single item will be lacking. This time, Wei Huigo had the audacity to resell the military provisions for profit. You go ahead and behead him in accordance with the law. Whoever pleads for mercy, I will remonstrate and impeach him. Kong Qiu voiced his acknowledgement. Liege paused for a moment to brace himself before he continued, I'm going to send a letter to the Prince of Liege to do away with the need for the army inspecting censor. This time, the imperial court will not assign an inspection eunuch to stir up trouble. All major and minor military affairs of Liege will still be managed by the Prince of Liege himself. Kong Qiu hesitated for a moment before saying, I am afraid the Empress Dowager will not agree to do away with the army inspecting censor. Is there no emperor in Great Zhou? It is a century-old rule that the inner court should not interfere with government affairs. It's not up to her to decide this time. Besides, fighting a war is no joke. What's the use of sending a few castrated eunuchs who only know how to fawn on others? They are just a waste of food. Liege took a few more steps and continued, the eunuchs are all personal attendants of the Son of Heaven. The 24 yamen could be called the inner court. Having resided for long deep in the palace, they know not of the sufferings of the people, nor do they understand the ways of the sages. Pan Rugui was a eunuch who had attended the eunuch school, but all he did was to frame loyal, upright men and bring harm upon the state. A wise man foresees and mitigates risks. The eunuch faction has only just been eliminated, we mustn't give them any more opportunities. I'll get Chen Zhen to draft the memorial now. Submit it to His Majesty tonight. Fu Man came looking for them with a lantern in hand from the other side. He did not dare to approach them and merely paid his obeisances from afar and said in a solemn voice, Secretariat Elder and Your Excellency the Minister, this way, please. You have been summoned to the hall. Liege answered in a muted voice. He did not look kindly upon Fu Man either. Kong Qiu supported him by the arm and walked back with him. Only when he was this close to Liege's body did he realize just how skinny the Grand Secretary had become. He felt a stab of sorrow and grief in his heart, although his expression gave nothing away under the darkness. ******. Xiao Qi retidied his robes and crown and entered the hall once again. This time, Xue Zaizuo was also present, with a spot at the end. The case of the military provisions is of grave importance, and it involves the collusion between officials and merchants for illegal profits. It gives a very bad impression on the local officials. If it can't be dealt with promptly and severely, then those scums will only take it for granted and will have no regard for the law. Having smoked his pipe outside, Sen Yu curbed his impatience and said, Your Majesty, this subject requests to start the investigation and prosecution tonight. First, apprehend Wei Hui, go into the imperial prison and have someone keep an eye on the Wei clan's account books and manners. We can't let them take advantage of the disorder to transfer away the ill-gotten gains. Li Jianheng had also been hanging on for a day and a night, and he was now so tired he could barely open his eyes. He managed with some difficulty to nod his head and said, the military provision is a major issue. He made a mess of matters. Whether he should be executed or have his properties sealed, the Grand Secretariat may just deal with him at its own discretion and as it deems fit. The reach of this case stretches so far and wide that even Zhang Qingshan has to remain in his post pending the trial. Moreover, the Wei clan is a large clan with an extensive business empire. I'm afraid it can't be done within half a month with the Ministry of Justice acting alone on its own. Xiao Qi's thumb rubbed the space between his thumb and index finger gently, and the thumb ring slowly rotated. He said, likewise, the joint trial by the 3 judicial offices epidemic case is still pending. To strictly guard against the emergence of similar official-merchant collusion cases elsewhere, the Chief Surveillance Bureau still has to free up personnel to head down and check the accounts of the various areas. Seems to me that everyone has their own difficulties and are similarly short on manpower. Your lordship has a point. Xue Zaizuo continued in a soft voice. But everything has its own importance and urgency. Liege is fighting a war at present, so the matter of the military provision is of top priority. The Ministry of Justice and the Chief Surveillance Bureau naturally have to put this matter first. It's not an issue at all. Blockhead Li Jianheng could tell that Xiao Qiye was hinting at something to him. But with Xue Zaizuo's interruption, he did not know how to continue. Scratching his cheeks, he looked at Liege and asked, what does the Secretariat Elder think? Liege did not look at any of them. After a moment's pause, he said, is your lordship worried that the joint trial by the 3 judicial offices will drag the case on for too long? Xiao Qiye said, the workflow of the joint trial by the 3 judicial offices is too complex. Wei Huigu has been in the top position for so long that his thinking and methods are all different from the common man. I'm worried that it will cause further complications if we keep him around for too long. Liege Anhung hurriedly cut in, that's right. The Wei clan has always shown filial respect to the Empress Dowager. If this case drags on for too long, I'm worried that the Empress Dowager will be overwhelmed with worries and end up causing her health to deteriorate. But without the joint trial by the 3 judicial offices, we can't thoroughly investigate the various profiteering loose ends down there. Disagreeing, Kong Chiu said, these people are only this audacious before because they have Wei Huigu to shield them. It'll be a disaster to let all of them run free. I'm merely worried about the time. I'm not saying that we shouldn't investigate. Xiao Qiye looked at Liege Anhung. Don't tell me this is the only course for that Chu capital can take. Something clicked in Liege Anhung's mind, and he slapped his thigh and picked up the thread. For a speedy investigation, we should let the Jin Yue handle it. That Shen Zequan was pretty fast in his handling of the previous matter in which Shi Hongxian assembled notorious bandits. Why not let him take charge of this case? Xue Zhuo said, this is such a major case. I'm afraid it won't do to hand it over to the vice commander of the Jin Yue. Shen Zequan will be limited by his rank. It'd be more appropriate to hand it to the commander-in-chief, Han Cheng. Xiao Qiye shifted his gaze to Xue Zhuo's face and pulled his lips into a smile. He said, that's right. Shen Zequan is indeed not suitable to take charge of this case. He's young and lacking in experience, and he has a long-standing grudge against me. I can't rest reassured if we hand it over to him. On the contrary, his retreat in order to advance convinced Hai Lianji. Hai Lianji knew Han Cheng had some friendly relations with Xiao Qiye, too. He was worried that Xiao Qiye might use this and go too far with his handling of this case, so he might as well hand it over to Shen Zequan to take care of since he had always been at odds with Xiao Qiye. With both men standing in diametrical opposition to each other and mutually monitoring one another, no one would be able to play dirty tricks and tamper with the case. Your lordship, this is just your prejudice. Shen Zequan is indeed young and lacking in experience, but it was by imperial decree that he was first promoted up the ranks, where he dealt with one difficult case one after another. Letting him gain more experience is a good thing, too. Hai Lianji turned to Liege Anhung and said, having the Jin Yue as the chief investigators of this case means that it'll be handled by the imperial prison, and it just so happened that Shen Zequan is the northern judge. Given his official duties and responsibilities, his handling of the case is justified and reasonable. It's just that it's inadvisable to persist in aiming for speed. Although we are bypassing the joint trial by the 3 judicial offices, there is still a need for the 3 judicial offices to supervise. What does your majesty think? Liege Anhung knew that Hai Lianji was making concessions by this. He did not dare to be too overly partial towards Xiao Qiye, so he instantly agreed and said, I'll issue the edict to him right at once to start the investigation tonight. 2 consecutive days of official discussions in Mingli Hall finally came to a momentary halt. Everyone had to return and rest for a night. As they stepped out of the hall, Liege Anhung specifically let the eunuchs carry the sedan and send Hai Lianji to the palace gates to get on his horse carriage. Kong Chiu and the rest walked out together. Xiao Qiye nodded farewell to them and left by himself. Kong Chiu looked at Xiao Qiye's back and sighed, the way I see it, he's too broken-hearted to trust the Ministry of Justice to preside over the case and wants to investigate it together with Han Cheng. Sen Yu descended the stairs and said, and look at just who Han Cheng is. The Secretariat Elder was right to choose Shen Zequan. Is Yanking heading straight back to your residence? Xue Zhuo followed behind them with a smile on his face and said, yes. I've been resting in the office compound these few days. I should go back tonight and get the preparations ready. There are still cases that needs to be attended to a few days later. Sen Yu was very caring and nurturing of his juniors, and promoted them very often. He had personally guided Yu Zioze of the Chief Surveillance Bureau, whose career had blossomed under his mentorship, and he occasionally gave Shenzhequan advice too, all of which was out of concern. He also valued Xue Xiaozuo's talents, so when he heard these words of his, he simply had to encourage him some more. The three men got into their respective horse carriages at the palace entrance. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. It was deep in the night when the servant of the Xue's residence heard a knock at the door, so he threw on his clothes and came out for a look. Standing outside the door were all solemn-looking Jin Yue with their blades. He was startled, and before he had time to ask questions, Qiao Tianya, who was at the lead, leisurely squeezed his way through the door and pushed the man aside. "Have you eaten? It's still early at present, so you probably haven't taken your meal yet. Then go inform the kitchen to prepare meals for us Jin Yue, too. And while you are at it, call everyone up. We're going to search the residence." The steward lifted his lantern to stop him in his tracks and yelled, "Your Excellency, how can you do this? You haven't produced the search warrant. Take all those who obstruct official duties and hold up the search and arrest into the imperial prison." Shenzhequan stood at the entrance, his gaze sinister and ruthless. "Tell Xue Xiaozuo that I'm looking for him." End chapter. Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 1, I Was an Outcast Liege. Chapter 93, General. The Jin Yue swarmed into the Xue's residence and swiftly passed through the veranda to enter inside the residence. All the people in the various courtyards were startled awake. The women huddled together in fear as they were herded out of their houses towards an open space in the residence to assemble. The Jin Yue had a certain reputation, and in these people's eyes, Shenzhequan was a man-eating predator. Xue Xiaoyi hurriedly put on his clothes and stepped out. Seeing Xue Xiaozuo standing under the eaves too, he could not help but lunge forward and hauled Xue Xiaozuo as he said resentfully, "What did you do to bring the Jin Yue to us? If you implicate us and get us into trouble, I'll boot you out and have you disowned from the clan." Xue Xiaozuo turned his head to look at this savage-looking eldest brother of his and let him halt as he liked. With pity and indifference in his eyes, he said, "The whole family gets a share in fame and fortune, but when misfortune befalls, one person alone bears it all. Eldest brother, have no fear. It's still far from your turn to be the head of this clan." Having said that, he pushed Xue Xiaoyi away and walked along the steps towards Shenzhequan. This was the second time Shenzhequan and Xue Xiaozuo met head-on. Xue Xiaozuo had not gone to bed yet. He had been in the study handling affairs pertaining to the cases and had promptly walked out with an azure wide-sleeved robe draped over him. This man had a calm and unhurried aura to him, and his scholarly elegance was not something that could be feigned overnight. He had real capabilities, and this was something Shenzhequan never denied. "To what I owe the vice commander's presence in my humble abode at this late hour." Xue Xiaozuo, who was about the same height as Shenzhequan, stood firm and said to Shenzhequan, "I would have prepared a simple meal with wine as a show of hospitality and welcomed you if you had come much earlier. I've just received the imperial edict. His Majesty orders me to take overall charge of the military provisions case. This is such a major issue, and the Jin Yue, not daring to be sloppy, have promptly arrested Wei Huigu." Shenzhequan scrutinized the couplets in the main hall and did not look at Xue Xiaozuo as he said with nonchalance, "Wei Huigu has always been on good terms with Assistant Minister Xue. In order for you to avoid suspicions, your residence will have to be searched tonight. I am fully aware that the Court of Judicial Review is assisting the Jin Yue with the case. But I am an appointed official of the Imperial Court. If the Jin Yue want to search my residence, you'll need the warrant issued by the Ministry of Justice." Xue Xiaozuo looked around the courtyard and saw panic and confusion all around. He said, "However, this case is urgent, and the vice commander has the prerogative to act first and report later. Uncle Xue, hand the keys to the inner courtyard to the Jin Yue as well. Lead the way to whichever area they wish to search." Shenzhequan inclined his head and said, "You are really something to be on guard even against an impromptu imperial edict issued by His Majesty." Xue Xiaozuo smiled. It's only right that I act with caution when encountering a character like the vice commander. It's late and chilly out there. If the vice commander doesn't find it beneath you, would you like to have a cup of tea with me inside? This residence isn't small. By the time the search is done, it would be time for morning court. I'll skip the tea. Shenzhequan slowly turned around. I can't afford to ask for tea from prominent clans. So does it mean I'm going to have to return empty-handed again today? Shueziaozuo said, that will have to depend on what the vice commander is here for. If it is to investigate the case, then it's indeed going to be regrettable. I'm just acquaintances with Wei Huiguo, we aren't connected in any way. Shenzhequan fell silent. As he stared at Shueziaozuo, that feeling of being played for a fool indistinctly resurfaced again. After a long while, Qiao Tianya returned to the open ground and shook his head at Shenzhequan from afar. Shenzhequan then knew that he had come up empty-handed once again. Shifu and teacher were both not here. A wily hare has 3 burrows. Shenzhequan said softly. Just a fish swimming at the bottom of the cauldron taking a momentary breather. Shueziaozuo said in a deferential manner. You only have this one chance with me. Shenzhequan moved his feet and approached Shueziaozuo. Where are they? It was a moonless night, with the after-rain dampness and chill pervasive all around. The men and women in the courtyard were all covering their faces and weeping. Shueziaoyi did not know the details, but fearing Shueziaozuo would infuriate Shenzhequan, he hurriedly stepped forth and bowed to Shenzhequan with his hands clasped before him. With trepidation, he said, Who is your excellency looking for? We are not harboring any fugitives from the military provisions case. All the people in the compound are here. Your excellency, please feel free to interrogate them. We will definitely tell you all we know without holding anything back. Shueziaozuo said nothing. Seeing that he was not willing to reveal his Shifu's whereabouts, he said, I'm looking for wanted criminals of the imperial court. I've heard that there is a batch of prostitutes being kept in Assistant Minister Shue's residence. Is that right? Shueziaozuo's gaze flickered. Shueziaoyi immediately cut in and said, Yes, there is. But matters like soliciting and consorting with prostitutes are all impeachable by the Chief Surveillance Bureau. He has been pretty careful in hiding them, so the imperial censors have no awareness of it. Your Excellency, please take a look. These are those youngsters. They are just some little playthings. How could they be wanted criminals of the imperial court? Shenzhequan noticed the slight change in Shueziaozuo's expression at Shueziaoyi's words. He turned his eyes to look at those boys and girls and said, What kind of place is Shangyun Villa? Everyone in there are all wanted criminals implicated in the assassination case. Assistant Minister Shue bought them from Shangyun Villa without so much a word. Why wasn't the Ministry of Justice notified? Shueziaozuo pushed Shueziaoyi aside and said, These people all have proof of household registration. Although they are from the brothel, they are all innocent. The vice commander is currently on the military provisions case tonight. It has nothing to do with them, so why keep insisting on it? Whether they are innocent or not, we will only find out after they make a trip to the imperial prison. Shenzhequan looked back and said, Take all these people away. The group of people hugged themselves and cried out loud. Qiao Tianya took the lead and dragged them away. Under Shueziaozuo's tutelage, those boys had been taught to carry themselves like the younger generation of distinguished clans, so how could they compare to the Jinyi way? In no time, their wails worsened. Shueziaoyi was so frightened that his legs were trembling. Still wanting to mediate and say a few words of appeasement to ease the tension, he even brought out Xiao Qi Ye. Your Excellency. Bracing himself, Shueziaoyi said with difficulty, Since this matter concerns Liege, then why not ask what his lordship thinks? If there's really something wrong, then go ahead and take Shueziaozuo away. Shueziaozuo suddenly took a few steps forward to obstruct Qiao Tianya. He bellowed, the Jinyue still have to follow procedures even if you are officially on the case. Vice Commander Shen, you can take my people away, but I want to see the arrest warrant from the Ministry of Justice. Take them away. Shen Zequan held up his blade to push back against him, forcing Xue Xiaozuo to take a step back. He said, since you want the arrest warrant, then I will give you as many as you want tomorrow morning. Shen Zequan. Xue Xiaozuo abruptly flung his sleeves. I'm going to impeach you for abusing the power of public office to avenge personal grudges. Then go ahead and submit the memorial for impeachment tonight. Shen Zequan's tone turned frosty. This batch of people is now in my hands. For each day I don't see teacher, I will kill one. Guess how long it will take for me to kill my way to your precious student. Don't you dare. Xue Xiaozuo suddenly flew into a rage. Seeing that Jiao Tianya had already dragged them away to the other end where their wails were increasing in intensity, he grabbed Jiao Tianya's arm and said, you people are accessories to crime by willfully arresting innocent commoners. So why investigate? Stop it. If you dare to get in the way again, I'll kill them now. Shen Zequan partially pressed his blade out of its sheath with his thumb, revealing a glint. Seeing Shen Zequan made to draw his blade out amidst their dispute, Xue Xiaoyi could not help but be so seized with terror that he actually fainted from the fright. The surrounding servants all yelled out eldest master and hurried over to help him up. Xue Xiaozuo, who was being dragged backward by the Jinyue, watched helplessly as the Jinyue rounded all his students up onto the wagon. Shen Zequan. Xue Xiaozuo held onto the arm blocking his way, his composure all but gone. With his eyes reddened, he spat resentfully, do you really dare to kill them? Do you dare? You tyrant! You aren't worthy of being Mr. Student. Shen Zequan flipped atop his horse and left Xue Xiaozuo's shouts of abuse behind him. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. The war in Liege were concentrated in numbers and intensity. Likewise, it was not all quiet and still over at the Bianjun Commandery. Lu Guangbai returned to his camp for a rest. He had not even dismounted yet when he saw his deputy general hurrying over towards him. He asked, what's the matter? The deputy general did not look too good as he whispered, General, Chu capital has dispatched an army inspecting eunuch over. He brought this year's military provisions, too. After a moment of silence, Lu Guangbai dismounted, removed his helmet and lifted the screen to enter the tent. A eunuch was sitting on the raised seat that had been set up inside. He was dressed in a python-patterned robe and wore a yandun hat on his head. Even when he saw Lu Guangbai stepping in, he did not get up to pay his obeisances. Lu Guangbai set aside his long spear and said, Gong Gong has been rushing the entire journey. Why are you not taking a rest? I'll order the men to tidy up the tent. Yang Shi was a recently promoted eunuch. He had backings in the palace and he knew that his masters had never looked kindly upon the Lu clan of the Bianjun Commandery, so he looked down upon Lu Guangbai, too. Upon hearing him, he smiled and said, it's desolate and barren here, and all the people here are clumsy fools, so how would they know how to serve others? There's no need for the general to go to such trouble. I have already taken a look around. That tent is so dark and filthy. It's not inhabitable. I've gotten men to hurry over to Qiang to buy some timber with the plan to build a separate compound here. I still have to stay here for half a year. Lu Guangbai was not good with words. He knew that the army inspecting eunuchs were always this pretentious and he could not be bothered to make conversation with them either. He undid the arm guard and with the removal of that iron protection, filthy blood dripped onto the ground. Upon seeing this, Yang Shi covered his nose in horror and exclaimed, how did it fester to such an extent? The deputy general dragged the chest over with the intent to bandage it for Lu Guangbai. When he saw the wound, he said, General, it's scraped so badly. We have to get the military medic over to take a look at that. Lu Guangbai motioned for him to shut up and felt around the side of his thigh for a dagger. As he poured wine around his wound, he heated up the dagger in the candle flame until it was searing hot. The deputy general hurriedly held up his sleeve for him. Yang Shi had never seen such a ruthless person before, and his limbs went cold as he listened to the sound of rotten flesh being gouged out. Lu Guangbai sprinkled the medicine over the wound and got the deputy general to bandage it for him. The cavalry is hard to deal with. Without the deployment order, we can't pursue our way out of the delimited range, and we are naturally too occupied to bother with this when we are going back and forth engaged in battle pf attrition. Having cleaned up his wound, Lu Guangbai propped up his knee and looked at Yang Shi to ask, "Did Gong Gong come with the military provisions?" Yang Shi forced back his disgust and nausea and nodded his head. Lu Guangbai rose and said, "I'll go take a look." With that, he stepped out of the tent with his deputy general and headed towards the military provisions. Those who had escorted and transported the military provisions had already withdrawn. Lu Guangbai made his way into the granary and opened up a burlap sack. Yet when he saw the provisions within, he frowned. He reached out to grab a handful. It was all damp rice and moldy flour. "General," the deputy general said, "it's not just damp rice and moldy flour that were sent this time. The quantity is pathetic, too. Our Bayanjun commandery has 20,000 men and troops are dispatched every day to engage in war of attrition. There's a lot of running around involved, and naturally the amount of food consumed is high too. It can't be compared to the garrison troops of the other 4 commanderies. This bit of provision can't even last us until autumn." Lu Guangbai's scarred palm released these grains and said, "The Secretariat Elder Hai has always looked out for us. Last year's military provisions were also allocated pretty quickly. Is there a reason for the reduction in quantity this time?" The deputy general's chest heaved. Several times, he wanted to say something, but then he held it back. Lu Guangbai said, "Just say it if you have something to say. What are you holding back for? Did someone gag your mouth?" "General." The deputy general was indignant. He stepped forth to grab those grains and his emotions surged. He said in a tearful voice, "They gave us less. Why? Isn't it all because they were in a hurry to transfer provisions to Liege armored cavalry? What the heck? Liege armored cavalry are all good men and soldiers while the garrison troops of our Bayanjun commandery are all lowly bastards. They have always loved fawning on those at the top and bullying those at the bottom. They trampled on you every opportunity they can. But all of us are waging wars. We are all risking our own lives here, so on what grounds can they play favorites? What issue do they have with our Bayanjun commandery? We are already this poor, and they still want to skimp here and there. I asked those escorts who transported the food what are we to do in autumn, and they said that the imperial court told us to play it by ear and take care of it ourselves. Do as we deem fit. Fuck them to hell and back." The deputy general clenched his fists. Kedong's military provisions were reduced by half to supply to Liege, but don't the other commanderies need to fight, too? They still have military fields to provide them with food to eat, but we can only eat empty air. Once autumn arrives, the horses of the Bayansha 12 tribes will all be fattened up, and when that time comes, the battles will be even harder to fight. With just this bit of grains, we... Not another word. Lu Guangbai bellowed at the deputy general, stopping him in his tracks. He stood for a long time in the darkness. Eventually, he looked at the starry sky outside and said in a hoarse voice, "I'll think of a way." The fire beacon towers of the Bayanjun commandery sat in silence between the rolling terrains while the night, like the reversed flow of filthy waters, sealed this opening and obstructed them from seeing the light. Lu Guangbai did not have the prestigious reputation of the other 3 generals. He was just like the stubborn rock stationed at the edge of the desert, enduring the weight of oppressive pressure from 3 directions until it gradually eroded his originally round and smooth body into one with sharpened edges. Many people from their Lu clan had died, leaving only him to inherit Lu Pinjian's spear. He was this slow-wit and had no charm to speak of. He made a name for himself quite late in his years, having none of the natural talents that Xiao Jiming and Qi Ziyan possessed. He was Lu Pinjian's youngest and stupidest son. Yet, it was also someone like him who held up the Bianjun commandery after Lu Pinjian's retirement. He choked off the strategic passage in which the Biancha cavalry wanted to penetrate and advance through. He did not have a teacher. He was a general who learned his craft by following Lu Pinjian into the desert and tumbling his way out from the yellow sands. He treated others with sincerity. He was riddled with scars all over. That very night, Lu Guangbai did not sleep. He sat hugging his spear on the earthen slope before the camp, unable to think of a way to resolve the shortage of military provisions. Qi Ziyan had jurisdiction over the 5 commanderies. All these years, she had emptied her own private savings to give them financial aid. He could not keep asking Qi Ziyan for help every single time. His father at home was still sick as well, so he could not ask Lu Pinjian to drag his ailing body around to borrow money either. The deputy general saw Lu Guangbai's lonely back when he got up in the middle of the night to relieve himself. He wanted to go over and tell him to rest, but before he could approach him, he saw Lu Guangbai bending over and reached out to touch the soil at his feet. For a long time, Lu Guangbai never raised his head back. End chapter.